This is Liu Xiaojun's world record 207 kilo clean and jerk from the 2019 Worlds. It remains one of the most impressive lifts I've ever seen and one of the craziest competitions I've ever seen. Liu Xiaojun, 35 years old, going up against his teammate Li Dayin, who is just 21 years old. These two athletes were going head-to-head, fighting for the chance to have a spot on the Tokyo Olympic team. In the snatch, both had done 171 kilos, although Liu did it first, giving him priority of placement. It had already been an impressive competition thus far, but I don't think anyone could have anticipated just how extraordinary it was about to become in the clean and jerk phase of competition. I was lucky enough to be there commentating for the broadcast, and in a minute we're going to start hearing from Mike Choi, who is in the back room as a sort of assistant producer helping spot what was going on so that the producer and camera people could essentially create the broadcast. He had a chance to see the Chinese team in action, Liu in action, and what went on as the next 20-ish minutes played out in a way that nobody could have anticipated, but everyone who saw is likely to remember for years to come. So let's go back to that warm-up room and see one of the greatest performances by one of the greatest athletes this sport has ever seen. So you're in the back here, you're hanging out. What do you remember about, this session, let's say going into the clean and jerk? Liu has just snatched 171. What's on your mind going in? Because I was there commentating, and certainly there were things I was thinking of, but you were seeing more, obviously.
So he was looking good. It was the first time I was that close. I was literally standing 15, maybe 20 feet from him. And just to be able to see his facial expressions. At this point, I don't think he's really wincing, but he doesn't. Maybe I'm misremembering here, but it seems like he's just not ready to go yet. Of course, he's just with the bar, so I'm not thinking much about it.
So at this point, from where I am, so we're commentating on the session, and none of us, and you see the timestamp at the bottom, about 12 minutes away on that last attempt, none of us thought he was 12 minutes away because that was way too early, we would have assumed, for Liu to come out. So he's only 10 minutes away right now, and he has 60 kilos on the bar. He's going to open with 191, by the way, so that's absolutely insane. 60 kilos, 60 to 191 in 10 minutes. But again, my assumption is we're not going to see him till close to the end of the session. So what are some of the things you remember as he starts taking 60 kilos and moving up in the warm-up?
I'm with you. I thought he was a little bit behind, but you never doubt the Chinese. I thought he started off really, really slow. At this point, he's not really making faces, but I can tell you that I think Canelo and I both thought something was not right. But we didn't quite know what it was yet.
Was there anything in the snatch phase that made you think something wasn't right?
No, it seemed unusual that he would miss his opener, but other than that, and people miss their openers all the time, so even the great Liu can miss. But other than that, I didn't really think too much about it.
Yeah, so for people, if you don't remember, so he missed 165, made 165 in his second, and then made 171 in his third for gold medal. So about 7.5 minutes out, and he's at 100 right now. So he has just over 7 minutes to get to 191. By 100 kilos, to me, again, not knowing what happened, I don't think I would assume anything looks wrong here, to be totally honest.
No, I agree with that.
130 also, to me, I don't know. To me, it looks like a reasonable lift, maybe a little heavier than normal for 130. He's at 4.5 and he goes to 160. At what point do you start thinking something isn't quite right?
Quite honestly, I don't think I thought anything was wrong until after I saw the facial expressions of his first lift.
Of his first lift on the platform.
On the platform, that's correct.
Yeah. So it looked like he was wincing a little bit there. We're now at 4 minutes out. I gotta say, this is one of the most impressive ascents of the barbell that I've ever seen in terms of how quickly he's moving up through these weights. So we're 2.5 minutes out, and he's about to take 180 kilos, which should be like a routine attempt for him.
Yeah. At this point, I'm sort of watching Lou out of the corner of my eye and also watching other lifters around him in the cards. And so, I'm probably fanboying a little bit, but I have to make sure that I communicate what's happening at the table back to the executive producer. So
he just missed 180. I remember getting a message, I want to say, that Lou just missed 180. So we're up commentating, and we're in contact with you via various means, text messaging, WhatsApp, and we get a message that Lou has just missed 180. Did you see that 180 miss?
I did, and I believe Canelo looked at me, and then he was furiously typing to you guys.
So he comes out, opens at 190, which is about, several kilos lower by quite a bit than I would have imagined him opening at here. And we'll see that it's not the most convincing 191 I've ever seen. But importantly, he gets on the board. Now, at this point, you start to realize something's up, right?
That's right. I've never seen him sort of do that before.
What are your thoughts then as you see this 191? Because he's also got Lee Dayan, who seems to be in great shape, is much younger, and is not wincing at this point.
I thought I was just curious to know what happened there and why he was making that face. But at that point, I sort of move on to the next card. So at this point, my memory's a little fuzzy.
That said, he gets on the board with 191. After the 191, when he walks back, do you remember what starts happening?
I don't. I think that he gets caught by his coaches and they start walking over and he's looking for an ice pack at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so here's actual footage from the feed, and you can see he has an enormous amount of ice on his back. Our assumption up at the commentating table was he was out. And if you look down at the bottom, he had 20. Now, none of us knew this at the time, right? But all we knew is he's on his back, or he's on his stomach, right, with ice on his back.
JP, Lou still hasn't moved. He's face down.
My assumption is, all right, he's done. What was the sense in the back room?
That was also where kind of Canelo and I are giving each other the what's going on gestures. We assumed, too, that he was either going to take a second attempt and miss, or he was out. And that's what we were talking about and gesturing. Things did not look very good at this point.
Do you remember what the other players in the back room were doing at this point?
No, I don't think it seemed business as usual. I didn't see anyone getting excited or doing anything unusual. People were just going about their business.
So just said there was 8 minutes of icing. Sorry, go on.
So I was sort of taken aback by how normal everyone was acting with, one of the greatest weightlifters ever, to just laying on his stomach and no one getting amped up about it.
Yeah, I mean, because if Lou's out, potentially that bumps everybody up in the rank.
Exactly.
I mean, Lee Dayan must be thinking, all right, this is my shot.
Finally.
And, a bunch of other athletes obviously will then be moved up a spot. So he's been iced for 8 minutes. There's Canelo walking by. He hasn't touched a weight in this time, has he?
Not at all. In fact, that movement there, that sort of up-down movement, is about all he did. He does a couple hip circles here and there, but he's really doing nothing.
This is extraordinary. He's been doing nothing for 10 minutes now. It looks like he's got some tape or something, or a band that he's wrapping around his back. Still hasn't really moved aside from that up-down movement you've done. Competition is still moving at this point.
And I'd like to add that, even though he was in pain and not ready to go, his facial expressions the whole time were pretty calm, like, okay, well, this is my situation. He didn't seem nervous at all. The coaches were running around a little more than normal. They're a pretty calm group, the Chinese coaches. But Liu Xiaojun looked pretty calm, just like that.
Yeah, I mean, you see he's relaxing, he's got his towel. It's been over 14 minutes and he has not taken a lift. This is insane. At this point, I am convinced he's done. He's listed on the board, I think, so his second attempt is going to be 205, and I forget at what point they actually put 205 on the board, but he's still active. But my assumption is that's it, he's out. Comes up, he's got 60 on the bar.
And if I remember these first couple lifts, he does wince.
He does a little pull into the hip with 60 kilos. There's a little wince there. So that's 60 kilos. That's the first weight he's taken in like almost 15 minutes, essentially. And at this point, we are getting messages saying, okay, he just took 60. And my assumption is that's it. There's no way. There's no human on the planet who can go from 60 kilos to 205. Here he is taking 60 again. And the field has narrowed down as we're getting closer. It's really between him and Li Dayin, assuming he can make a lift. So he takes 60 kilos twice. But otherwise, that's all he's done. And then he's going to come and take it a third time. Are you watching this in the back room?
I am. I'm trying to report. I remember very clearly thinking like, okay, he's got 60 on the bar. He needs to be ready to go very, very soon. And I'm speaking into my headphones. This isn't going to happen.
What's the response from the producers and everybody?
Well, they're pretty unemotional. They're thinking like it's more for them to prepare for reaction shots and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So at this point, he's walking out for his 205, and my assumption is he's going to walk out, touch it, and walk away, or at most deadlift it.
And he goes from 60 to something insane, and then he goes out. That's it.
So this is 60 to 205, maybe the biggest jump in the history of warm-up to competition attempts. Absolutely insane.
And I've told the executive producer prior to the lift, get ready, he's gonna miss.
Really?
And then I may have sworn into the like I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, that was his last lift.
So at this point, yeah, this is what we all assume, right? I mean, we all assumed 191 was his last lift. So, like, all right, that's it. Liu Xiaojun, he's technically a master's lifter. This is, going out with a gold medal snatch and a 191 clean and jerk is not a bad way to go out, right? Comes out and makes 205. My mind is blown at this point. I am absolutely shocked. So much so that I wonder, like, was he sandbagging it in the back? I mean, did you, as someone who saw this, have any sense that he was faking it?
Not at all. His wincing reactions were real. And, why would he do that?
Yeah. Yeah. And why fumble off the platform like that, for example? At this point, I assume he's done, completely done. Li Dayin comes out and takes and makes 206 kilos. So Liu back on his stomach, more ice. Dayin's going to come out and make his 206. He misses 206 on the second attempt, and he makes 206 on his third. Did you think he was coming out for a third, or what are you reporting to your
I thought
team?
he was coming out for a third as kind of his final salute. like, this is it. This is me retiring. Maybe
Yeah.
not putting his shoes on the platform, but like, I'm going to come out, give a wave to the crowd, and then walk back. I was floored when he took it.
I think for a lot of us, we assumed this would be his swan song, and that was going to be the end of things. But in a surprising turn of events, so we still got 1 minute, but he's going to come out for 2:07 to beat Lee Dayan in the clean and jerk and the total. And again, at this point, I didn't know what to think. So I certainly thought the 205 was his last lift. By the time he made that 205, it sort of changed my mind. Like, well, maybe I should just stop pretending I know anything about what Lou's going to do. So this is for gold in this lift and the total. Just insane. Absolutely insane. Probably one of the most unpredictable sessions in weightlifting. I couldn't imagine this playing out the way it did.
I think it's the most superhuman thing I've ever seen. Certainly in a weightlifting meet, but just ever in person. It was insane.
Yeah, I mean, 207 is an impressive lift for a healthy human being at the peak of their physical condition on the best day of their competitive career. And Liu Xiaojun does it after over a decade in the sport at a high level. Not at well, I guess you could argue whether he's at the peak of his career, although, he certainly snatched more. And he does it injured, which I just don't understand.
What's amazing to me still is that he does this. 2 years later, he's in the Olympics.
Yeah, exactly. And he had to wait another year of training and age and stress on the body due to COVID. So, the thought is, all right, he'll do this 207, he goes to the Olympics, and then that's it. I mean, every month that goes by is a lot of time as you get deeper in training and your age. So, I mean, he is getting iced down still, of course, but I think the fact that he seemed to sort of walk off without too much effort is what made some of us think, oh my gosh, he must, maybe it was all a joke. He was playing at it the whole time. There's no way that was real. But everything I've heard from you, from others, suggests that no, like this was a legitimate injury that he was fighting through. And for whatever reason, he was able to come back and make these lifts.
I don't know why he would play that up at all. He's pretty straightforward, easygoing, super nice guy. And that just seems out of character from what I've observed.
So are there any anecdotes or stories from the back room that you recall that you want to share?
No, it's been a long time. I wish we were there.
I wish we were there as well. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed that. And we will see everyone next time.